Welcome to the INFOWARS Nightly News. It is Friday, November 7th, 2014, and I'm Leanne McAdoo. Here are tonight's top stories.
Tonight, Houston residents are urged to play dead in the event of a home invasion. And the tale of bin Laden's death.
I go, Osama bin Laden! And he goes, who's asking? I'm like, the US of A, motherfucker. Bam.
That's next.
Well, former Navy SEAL reveals that he is the man that killed Puff the Magic Dragon. He promises he did.
Well, if you are a member of the draconian EU government there in France today, well, I guess we can say that the stuff has hit the fan, literally. Now, these are French farmers. They sprayed government buildings in Paris and Toulouse with feces today in protest against environmental regulations and high taxes. In a show of protest against expressing their anger at collapsing prices, increased environmental regulations, cheap imports, and high costs, thousands took to the streets, dumping pumpkins, potatoes, and carrots. They burned cars, flung apples, and sprayed feces all over the government building in Toulouse. This is coming out of Zero Hedge, and they say the French are not amused. Farmers protested against the French government's enforcement of a 1991 EU directive, which forces farmers to make costly upgrades to infrastructure in order to comply with the regulation that's aimed at curbing nitrate pollution. The government's stringent regulations don't apply to foreign competition, and of course, this is a factor that is forcing many farmers there out of business. So, of course, the French have been struggling under massive economic woes, a record unemployment, and now the farmers are fighting back because they're being put out of business so that the country can ship in all of these foreign goods. So that's a big issue. You've got to support local, buy local. And they just decided they were going to dump all of this manure that they couldn't use right there at the feet of their government. But an economist has warned that rampant corruption combined with these economic woes are going to spark revolution here in the U.S. by 2016. Economist Martin Armstrong writes, that is the magic ingredient. Turn the economy down and you get civil unrest and revolution. Now, we've reported that the U.S. Army is preparing for civil unrest in the U.S., citing a 132-page document entitled U.S. Army Techniques Publication 339, Civil Disturbances, and it outlines how troops may be required to deal with unruly and violent crowds where it is necessary to quell riots and restore public order. Now, these are the kind of riots that rocked Ferguson, Missouri earlier this year, and of course are threatening to reignite should Officer Darren Wilson be acquitted. And of course, those riots just illustrate how quickly things can escalate. Now, the Atlanta Police Department is preparing for unrest, of course, in the aftermath of the grand jury verdict in the case of Officer Darren Wilson. That's expected to be announced this weekend. The department is just one of many from across the country that are gearing up for potential disorder. This should be, if Wilson is acquitted, of the August 9th killing of 18-year-old Michael Brown, and it's an outcome that is widely expected. Now, peaceful protesters are, of course, welcome to exercise their First Amendment right, and I guarantee they're going to be out there in droves nationwide. But cops say that they are getting crowd control training to deal with those who may not want to be so peaceful. Now, we've seen just exactly what that crowd control looks like there with the sound cannons and the rubber bullets shooting up our reporters, as well as all of the peaceful protesters there in Ferguson. Now, a source within the Missouri military revealed that troops were conducting drills to prepare for riots in Ferguson and St. Louis. Authorities say they were even planning on shutting down the airports if disorder got out of control. And Ferguson Mayor James Knowles told CNN that police must prepare for the worst. Now, we reported earlier this summer how some shop owners there in Ferguson were able to stave off any looters and violent attacks because they were armed with guns. Now, indeed, this is one of the main reasons for the right to keep and bear arms, to be able to protect yourself and your family. But in Houston, they are being given another set of solutions when faced with a home intruder, basically telling people to lie down and play dead. This is a local news segment purporting to provide tips on how to survive a home invasion. They're advising faking a heart attack or fainting if faced with potentially violent intruders. Now, while most of the advice seems sensible, one tip in particular stands out. If you come face to face with an intruder and you're not prepared, lie down and don't look at them. Pretend to have a heart attack or a breathing problem. So basically, they're telling you if you come face to face with a potentially violent home intruder, your best bet is to lie down. Now, as a woman, I'm sorry, but I am not going to lie down when I'm faced with a violent situation. This is basically just making it easier for a would-be rapist to throw you over their shoulder and go do whatever they're planning on doing with you and your family. Nowhere in the report does it suggest women, your only defense against a violent intruder would be a gun. They say, oh, pick up a bat or some other, any other heavy object. They never once mentioned in the report how better prepared you would be if you had a gun to protect your family. They just want to teach you to lie down and take it. Hide under your bed. But a record number of Americans are now saying that they feel safer with a gun in the home. This is according to a new Gallup poll. It indicates that almost 2/3 of Americans believe that having a gun at home makes them safer. That's more than 6 in 10, and that's double what it was in 2000. In 2000, it was just 3 in 10 who said a gun in the home makes them feel safer. So sorry to all of you gun grabbers out there, but your false flag tactics are not working. People are going to continue exercising their Second Amendment right. But what if the home invasion isn't about raping you and robbing you? What if it's about squatting indefinitely?
I'm Andrea Isom on the edge.
She recently did a story about a woman who bought a house in Detroit and wanted to sell it. But a squatter had taken over the house and refused to leave. The police were called. But Lynn, the squatter, claimed the homeowner tried to run her over. The homeowner went to jail, and Lynn moved her stuff back in the house. Now you're caught up.
That's a turn of events. Are you going to bail her out?
This is technically a violation of probation, so...
Oh.
After watching that clip, I began wondering how common squatting was. Turns out my investigation didn't even have to leave the city of Detroit.
Talk to us now? No, why not? Well, why are you stopping then? Don't even think about throwing that.
After the reporter helped expose the squatters, she was attacked and had racial obscenities hurled at her. Why do people squat? How do they manage to get away with it for so long? The Law.tv reports, for adverse possession to work, squatters have to stay in a home for a minimum time period as mandated by the state. This time frame varies widely by location. During that time, many states require the trespasser to have paid property taxes. Adverse possession was put on the books hundreds of years ago, when the law primarily applied to farmland. Property records were easily lost and damaged then, and adverse possession was a way to keep the land in productive use when it wasn't clear who owned or inherited the land. So the origins of the practice began innocently enough, but the practice itself has been taken advantage of a great deal since then.
Only an owner can initiate eviction proceedings, and the problem here, this house is a foreclosure property. That gave the squatters a loophole to hang out and ultimately trash this place and for a time terrorize the neighborhood.
Deputies went about it quickly, and within moments, one tenant left with his bicycle. The other hopped on a skateboard and rolled away.
So if you're a property owner, some of the best investments you can make would be steady fencing and sturdy locks. You can find more reports at INFOWARS.com.
Well, in the movies, the dystopic future always seems like a place far, far off, well beyond your and my lifetimes. Well, the Internet of Things is here, my friends. The dystopic future is now. Amazon has introduced its new digital assistant this week. It's called Echo, and it's a cloud-connected device that will strive to fulfill your every need. Now, it will answer questions, provide weather updates, play music, and it'll even tell jokes along with other mundane activities that you want to have it do for you. But it also does all of this by recording and responding to your voice. Now, Echo is constantly connected to the cloud. This allows it to learn and adapt, slowly gathering the specifics of a user's characteristics. The more you use Echo, the more it adapts to your speech patterns, vocabulary, and personal preferences. And even though Amazon assures you that it only turns on when you say the wake word, there is no word on when it stops listening to you and recording all of your vocabulary and speech patterns and personal preferences. Now, given Amazon's close relationship with both the NSA and CIA, and of course their history of selling privacy-invading devices, the safety of any collected personal information is in question, and especially in light of recent news surrounding cloud security. Now, the company is going to be hard-pressed to convince all of us that they're going to protect our private information and that the government isn't going to be able to access all of our home, and even the most mundane appliances nowadays are being given this ability to track and record us. The dishwasher, light bulbs, it's everywhere. Basically, it's all hooked up to Wi-Fi, and it gives hackers and the government instant access to anything that they need to ubiquitously spy on you and get access to every single detail of our lives.
Christmas is fast approaching. That means millions of people are going to be burning through their savings, lining up just to get their hands on the latest technology, completely oblivious to the fact that they are actually paying to have their private conversations recorded and shared with third parties. Take the new Samsung Smart TV. The amount of data that this thing collects is staggering.
Just say what you want.
Find us action adventure.
It logs where, when, how, and for how long you use the TV. It sets tracking cookies and beacons designed to detect when you have viewed particular content or a particular email message. It records the apps you use, the websites you visit, and how you interact with content. And it, of course, has a built-in camera and microphone with facial and voice recognition for your convenience. But Samsung's new global privacy policy for its line of smart TVs comes with a rather ominous warning. Please be aware that if your spoken words include personal or other sensitive information, that information will be among the data that's captured and transmitted to a third party. In other words, don't say anything private in front of your television.
They've been watching us. I can feel it.
Now, writing about the privacy policy for Salon.com, Michael Price writes, I do not doubt that this data is important to providing customized content and convenience, but it's also incredibly personal, constitutionally protected information that should not be for sale to advertisers and should require a warrant for law enforcement to access. There's no need for the FBI to bug your living room. You'll do it yourself. In 2 years' time, the stuff that this Samsung TV can do will be old news.
What's wrong?
Let's say you're having a fight with your spouse in front of your television. Well, that camera and microphone that's been surreptitiously recording all of your private conversations and scanning your body language can now send that information to third-party advertisers so that they can air a perfectly timed commercial suggesting some SSRIs. For them, it's all about targeted advertising. But for the surveillance apparatus, it's about complete information control.
Its primary intention is to transmit data. It receives data from smart appliances, which will be in your home, so that they can, then immediately push back to you what they feel that you need in that moment for advertising purposes. It's not giving us more control. It's actually giving the control to big corporations, to utilities, and to governments who will be sharing in this data that is basically being extracted from the home in a very, very high level of detail.
All of this spying is documented. It's been going on for decades, and now people are just buying into the idea that they need all of these new smart appliances to save the earth and save on energy bills, when in reality, these devices are ushering in a new era of total surveillance bondage. Lining up to buy their crap is helping to construct the Panopticon.
What's wrong?
I need something stronger.
Take 4 red capsules. In 10 minutes, take 2 more. Help is on the way.
Well, coming up later in the show, I'm going to speak with the director of a new PSA that is aiming to mobilize the masses to stand up and end this corrupt fluoridation campaign. But first, INFOWARS will bring you an exclusive sneak peek of Star Wars Episode 7.
In case you're wondering, the new title for Star Wars Episode 7 was just released,